It was in the middle of the night, and I just remember waking up. I just saw this large head hovering over top of me.
For centuries, stories of strange lights in the sky and mysterious visitors have sparked our imaginations.
And I saw the bottom of the craft there right before it shot up into the sky.
Forget the campfire tales of ghosts and goblins. There's something far more captivating and downright spooky out there. These are people who might not be from Earth at all. Let's dive into the mysterious tales of 15 terrifying individuals who may just hail from far beyond Earth's reach, or at least saw something beyond human understanding. Russian Mars Boy. Ever encountered a child who seems to know things beyond his age? Meet Boris Kiprianovich, a Russian boy with an extraordinary tale. From a young age, Boris amazed everyone around him. He started speaking at just 4 months old and was reading by age 1. Can you believe that? Moreover, despite no formal lessons, he became fascinated with space, especially astronomy. Boris claimed he lived on Mars in a past life. During a family camping trip at age 7, Boris shocked adults with his stories of Martian life, landing him in the Russian newspaper. His fame grew with a big interview at age 11, where he described Mars as a place torn by war and disaster. He believes he's here on Earth to prevent such catastrophes, and even hinted at hidden knowledge near the Great Sphinx in Egypt. Could there be truth behind his memories of life on Mars? Boris, or the Indigo Child, as he likes to be called, has sparked curiosity worldwide with his extraordinary claims. What do you think of Boris's story? Elizabeth Clara. In the world of extraordinary tales, Elizabeth Clara stands out as a fascinating figure. Elizabeth, born in South Africa in 1910, believed she was one of them. From a young age, she and her sister reported seeing UFOs, pointing to Elizabeth's lifelong fascination with extraterrestrial beings. But what makes her story truly remarkable? Despite skepticism from some, Elizabeth remained steadfast in her belief of these encounters. Elizabeth's most remarkable claim was her alleged romantic involvement with an extraterrestrial named Archon. According to her, Archon took her aboard his spacecraft and even fathered a child with her on his home planet, Meton. Elizabeth described Meton as a utopian society, free from the strife and limitations of Earth. Throughout her life, Elizabeth faced both ridicule and admiration for her extraordinary claims. She published a book, Beyond the Light Barrier, detailing her experiences and promoting a message of peace, love, and environmentalism inspired by her encounters. She passed away in 1994, leaving us with many questions. One being, can love really transcend the confines of the Earth? Travis Walton. You crack open your eyes. Everything's weird. Not your room, not the air you breathe. And the next moment reveals to you that you have been abducted by aliens. Spooky? Wouldn't it be? This scenario takes us back to the national forests of Apache Sitgreaves near Heber, Arizona, when, in 1975, a forestry worker, Walton, allegedly encountered extraterrestrial beings. On November 5th, 1975, while part of a logging crew, Walton disappeared after approaching a glowing object in the forest. This prompted a frantic search effort by law enforcement and volunteers, lasting 5 days. Soon after, Walton sold his story to the National Enquirer and wrote a book detailing his purported abduction experience, which later became a movie titled Fire in the Sky. Despite the attention Walton received and his insistence on the truth of his account, skepticism surrounded the incident. Critics pointed out that Walton and his crew were facing financial penalties for failing to complete their logging contract on time, providing a potential motive for a hoax. Regardless of the criticism, Walton continues to maintain the authenticity of his experience, making appearances on television shows and podcasts to share his account. The Man from Venus, George Adamski. Back in the mid-20th century, George Adamski became a prominent figure in the UFO community, claiming to have had numerous encounters with extraterrestrial beings. It all started in 1946, when during a meteor shower, Adamski and his friends thought they spotted a big cigar-shaped spaceship. Then, in 1947, Adamski took a photo of what he said was that spaceship crossing the moon. Adamski later embarked on a lecture circuit in 1949, where he made sensational claims about UFOs, including assertions that the government and science had confirmed their existence years earlier. He also suggested that all planets in Earth's solar system were inhabited, citing supposed evidence of artificial canals on Mars. Many mainstream ufologists have dismissed his claims outright. Despite this, he gained a following and co-authored the best-selling book Flying Saucers Have Landed in 1953, which further propelled his fame. So what made Adamski so convinced that the object he photographed crossing the moon was indeed a spaceship and not something else? Spanish soldier Gil Perez. Well, Gil Perez was a Spanish soldier who worked as a guard for the leader of the Philippines a long time ago. Gil was on duty at the palace when something strange happened. He suddenly felt dizzy and fell asleep for a moment. When he woke up, he found himself in Mexico City, thousands of miles away from where he was supposed to be. Even though this was unbelievable, he somehow knew detailed information about what had happened back in the Philippines, like the assassination of his boss, which had just occurred the night before. In Mexico City, the locals were baffled. Who was this stranger in an unfamiliar uniform, claiming to be a palace guard from the distant Philippines? And how could he possibly know intricate details about the recent assassination of the Gobernador General back in Manila, which had only occurred the night before? They thought he might be involved in something suspicious, so they handed him over to the authorities. Eventually, religious leaders got involved, and Gil was accused of desertion and being connected to evil forces. Despite being thrown in jail, Gil remained calm and cooperated with the authorities. They couldn't figure out what to do with him because his story seemed impossible. Then, a ship arrived from the Philippines with news confirming everything Gil had said about the situation back home. People recognized him as a palace guard, and finally, he was set free and sent back to the Philippines. Calvin Parker. Calvin Parker, a man from Pascagoula, Mississippi, became famous for claiming he was abducted by aliens. But what was the mysterious event that catapulted Parker into the spotlight, and how did it shape the rest of his life? The strange event that made Parker famous happened on October 11, 1973, by the Pascagoula River. Parker and his friend, Charles Hickson, were fishing when they heard a loud sound and saw a big UFO. They said they were taken aboard by 3 strange beings who examined them for about 30 minutes before returning them to the riverbank. They tried to tell the Air Force, but were told to go to the sheriff's office. They were recorded talking about the experience, passed lie detector tests, and even tried hypnosis, which confirmed their story. Despite this, many people didn't believe them, which made Maria Blair, who saw something similar that night, scared to talk about it for 45 years. Finally, in 2019, she spoke up to support Parker and Hickson. The city of Pascagoula honored their story by erecting a historical marker. Hickson had passed away in 2011, but Parker was grateful to see the recognition. He said it was an honor and wished to be buried under the marker when he died. Tutankhamun. In 1922, Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered by an expedition led by British archaeologist Howard Carter. The tomb was full of treasures, artifacts, and including a dagger with an iron blade and golden handle. This discovery made headlines around the world and sparked a new fascination with ancient Egypt, because this wasn't an ordinary iron blade. According to research conducted by Albert Jamban in 2017, the iron used in the dagger originated from a meteorite. This discovery raised eyebrows because it was way before the widespread use of iron in ancient Egypt. Crafting a dagger from meteoritic iron required great skill and know-how, so how did he even manage to get one made at a time when no high-tech tools were available? King Tutankhamun's space dagger isn't just a relic. It's an interesting peek into a time when people thought about space differently. The dagger also puts Khamun's parentage under question. Could he have been the son of an alien? Because his mother's origin is mostly disputed and no one has been able to confirm who she was. Or maybe he had connections with the extraterrestrial beings who might have gifted the dagger to him. Who knows? Tom Reed. On September 1st, 1969, Tom Reed, along with his mother, grandmother, and brother, experienced a mysterious encounter while driving through the Berkshires in Sheffield, Massachusetts. As they approached a covered bridge, their car suddenly stalled, and they witnessed a bright light in the sky. According to Reed's account, they then found themselves in a strange environment, surrounded by bizarre-looking creatures and a large disc-shaped object hovering overhead. After the incident, they found themselves missing a few hours of memory, with only vague and disjointed memories of being in a vast space. Following the encounter, Reed and his family reported the incident to local authorities and underwent hypnosis to recall additional details of the experience. Their story gained significant media attention, with local newspapers and television stations covering the alleged UFO sighting and abduction. With each detail of Reed's story, more questions emerge. What happened during their time aboard the mysterious craft? And what could possibly explain their otherworldly encounter in the quiet town of Sheffield? As the mystery deepens, one can't help but wonder, could there be more to this story than meets the eye? Nina Kulagina. Nina Kulagina is a woman whose psychic abilities shook the world during the Cold War era. She was a woman from Soviet Russia who claimed to have special powers. She said she could move objects with her mind and see colors with her fingers. This caught the attention of scientists and the government, especially during the Cold War, when both the US and the Soviet Union were interested in psychic abilities for warfare. But how did Nina discover her powers? Nina discovered her powers gradually, especially after a nervous breakdown in the hospital in the 1960s. She realized she could pick out colored threads from a bag without looking, even while blindfolded. Sounds hard to believe, right? So was it for people who heard of these claims back then? So, to prove her abilities, she and her husband conducted tests, and she successfully identified hidden colors and objects while blindfolded. This led to more experiments with scientists, where Nina demonstrated her ability to move small objects without touching them. She could make things like watches, salt shakers, and even a frog's heart move using only her mind. Scientists observed her intense concentration on the objects she wanted to move. Nina's abilities fascinated both Soviet and Western scientists, who conducted many experiments with her over 2 decades. In the 1960s, she gained international attention for her alleged paranormal abilities, showcased in silent black and white films. Psychic researchers worldwide were fascinated by her abilities, and in no time, she was the talk of the town. Vinny. Meet Vinny from Los Angeles. At just 17 years old, Vinny started a big transformation journey through plastic surgery. But Vinny's goal wasn't just to change his appearance. He wanted to look like an alien and break free from traditional ideas about gender and sexuality. It all began with getting his lips done and then moved on to surgeries like nose jobs, cheek and brow bone enhancements, and even skin treatments and cold treatments to freeze his face. Vinny's journey wasn't easy. He faced criticism and judgment from some people who didn't understand his desire to become an alien. Over the years, Vinny has spent over $50,000 on this transformation, but for him, it's not about the money. Vinny's journey makes us think about how far someone can go. Betty and Barney Hill. In the quiet countryside of New Hampshire, a seemingly ordinary couple had an extraordinary encounter that would defy explanation. This is the story of Barney and Betty Hill, a married couple from the United States. It all began on September 19, 1961, as they were driving through rural New Hampshire. They were returning home to Portsmouth from a vacation in Canada when something unusual caught their attention. As they drove along US Route 3, Betty noticed a bright light in the sky that seemed to move erratically. At first, she thought it might be a falling star, but as the light grew bigger and brighter, she became convinced it was something else. She urged Barney to stop the car so they could get a better look. Eventually, they pulled over at a scenic picnic area south of Twin Mountain. Using binoculars, Betty observed an odd-shaped craft with flashing multicolored lights moving across the face of the moon. According to their accounts, the craft hovered about 80 to 100 feet above their car, filling the entire field of view in the windshield. Barney, carrying his pistol, stepped away from the vehicle to get a closer look. Through binoculars, he claimed to have seen humanoid figures peering out of the craft's windows. These figures seemed to be wearing glossy black uniforms and caps, and they appeared to communicate with Barney telepathically. As the encounter unfolded, both Barney and Betty experienced strange sensations and impulses that they couldn't explain. After arriving home, they tried to piece together the events of the night, but their memories were fragmented. Concerned about their experience, the Hills sought help from a Boston astronomer named Walter N. Webb, who believed their account was credible. He interviewed them extensively and concluded that they were telling the truth. The Hills also underwent hypnosis sessions with Dr. Benjamin Simon to recover memories of what happened during a period of missing time on their journey. Ashtar. Ashtar is a figure of hope and enlightenment in the vastness of the universe. Have you ever heard the story of Ashtar? Ashtar's story is intertwined with the idea of consciousness and spiritual evolution. It is said that he belonged to a collective of enlightened beings known as the Ashtar Command, or the Galactic Federation of Light, whose purpose was to guide and assist civilizations in their journey towards enlightenment and peace. Legend has it that Ashtar and the beings of the Ashtar Command communicated with select individuals on Earth, often through channels of telepathy or spiritual transmission. These individuals, known as channelers or mediums, would relay messages of love, wisdom, and guidance from Ashtar and his cosmic companions to humanity. He urged humanity to transcend the limitations of the material world and embrace the interconnectedness of all beings. Edward Albert Meyer. Meet Albert Meyer, also known as Billy. He claims to have regular contact with beings from another world called Plyaron. But when did he first claim to have contact with an alien? Marie's story began at the young age of 5, when he claims to have met an elderly Plyaron man, Svath. After Svath's passing in 1953, Marie says he started communicating with another extraterrestrial woman named Asket. These encounters ceased in 1964, but resumed again in January 1975 when he met with other family members of Svath. Shrouded in mystery, Billy Meyer's story remains largely untold. Do you think there is any truth to it? Do you ever wonder what it would be like to meet someone from another planet? Howard Menger was an American who claimed he met beings from outer space throughout his life. He wrote books about his experiences, where he talked about friendly aliens he met, similar to those described by another famous UFO figure named Adamski. Later, Menger changed his mind about where these aliens came from. He believed they didn't live on Venus as he initially thought, but rather they might have visited there or had bases there. He also suggested that their origin might not be from any specific planet, similar to how astronauts aren't native to the moon. Isn't it curious how our understanding of aliens and outer space can change over time? Some people think Menger and others like him were tricked by bad aliens, called the Omegans, into believing in life on Venus to discredit the messages from the good aliens. Could there be grains of truth in this story? Marshall Applewhite. Now, this one might be the most horrific and disturbing one that I am going to talk about. Marshall Applewhite was a religious leader, or it would be better to say that he was a cult leader who made the members of his cult believe that he was, in fact, the son of an entity higher than human beings. He believed that the earth was going to be recycled and people had to leave with him. And by leaving, he meant unaliving themselves. And yes, many did believe him, and a mass suicide was reported in October 1996. The group had rented a mansion and came together to go to the next level as if life were a video game. While others on this list only made claims for themselves, this man actually took many people with him and ruined several families because of his stupid beliefs. And that was it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Which person do you think sounds the most believable of them all? And which one was the most spooky? Have you ever encountered a person with such wild claims? If yes, do let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit the bell icon to get all our videos on time. Until next time.